Good morning. From medicines and food to soil amendments and environmental mitigation, we've come to celebrate the diverse roles of fungi in our world. Cutting-edge applications of fungi in the fashion industry has been the focus of Grace Shainstein's Lilley Fellowship over the past several months. Grace has explored the research and culturing of mycelium, the underground filaments of fungi, the production of bio-based materials, and the marketing strategies that have the potential to launch widespread embrace of fungi-based textiles. She has shown patience and resolve in laboratory studies, curiosity and creativity in her review and exploration of current practices, and vision for a future in which sustainability becomes a core principle of our products and our industries. Please welcome Grace as she shares her journey into the world of fungi and fashion.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. I would like to thank Mr. Smith for reading his kind introduction and Father Gavin in the vestry for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. I would like to begin with a question. What could a mushroom growing on a log possibly have in common with a designer handbag? The answer to that is mycelium. Mycelium is the name for the dense networks of filaments that form the living body of fungi. These filaments, called hyphae, entwine themselves into mats held together by chitin, a substance that is both strong and naturally abundant in nature. Here's why this matters. At a time when fast fashion is overwhelming our landfills and accelerating climate change, the possibility that we can grow useful, durable materials at room temperature using agricultural byproducts rather than petrochemicals is revolutionary. Imagine reducing energy consumption, eliminating toxins, and producing materials that emerge already close to the form we need without endless cutting, dyeing, or processing. This is why mycelium matters. I've been sewing since second grade when I received my first sewing machine. At first, it was just something I enjoyed, but with so much time during the pandemic, sewing took on new meaning, becoming a skill I could develop and use in tangible ways. It was around this time that I came across a video of an Instagram influencer, Alicia Valdez, transforming orange peels into a sheet of fabric, and the idea that bio-waste could be alchemized into clothing struck me as almost unbelievable. At that same time, I began volunteering with FABSCRAP in Philadelphia, where I sorted enormous bags of textile waste. The sheer volume of discarded material, most of it destined for downcycling or for landfills, was overwhelming. Those two experiences converged, and I began to wonder, what if there were a way to create fabrics that didn't have that inevitable destructive endpoint of the landfill? That question eventually led me to fungi, and to the challenge I set for myself through my Lilley research. Could I grow flexible, leather-like material in a school lab, one that I could actually sew with? So, my research question became this. What are the most viable methods for producing a sustainable, bio-based leather with a demonstrably lower environmental impact than either traditional leather or its synthetic substitutes? To explore this, I divided my research into 4 work streams: reviewing scientific and industry literature, conducting lab experiments at EA and at home to grow and process mycelium, meeting with experts and visiting production sites, as well as attending Texworld in New York City, where I learned from global leaders on sustainability, sourcing, and supply chains. During my lab time at EA, I worked with Ganoderma lucidum, the go-to fungi for textile production. Over 6 months of trial and error, I focused on finding the right growth conditions and treatments to achieve the leather-like thickness and texture I was trying to mimic. The process showed me how time-consuming production truly is. Cultivation began in March, following a step-by-step procedure I used throughout the whole process. First, I would place fungi culture into a nutrient-rich substrate of malt, yeast extract, and water, which feeds the mycelium as it grows. This mixture was then transported into mason jars, covered in aluminum foil, and put into the incubator for 30 days at 30 degrees Celsius. Over time, small mats of mycelium formed, and we carefully removed them from the jars. The mycelial mats were heat-pressed, transforming them from thick discs to thin sheets that were flexible and in the form that I could sew them with. In April, when I harvested those first sheets from the mason jars, I found they were fragile after heat pressing and tore easily when transferred to a glycerin bath, which acts as a plasticizer to increase their durability. By May, Mr. Smith suggested soaking cardboard in the malt and yeast mixture to try and encourage wider growth of the mycelium. This effort was semi-successful, although the samples produced were already extremely fragile. In our final attempt, we doubled the substrate, and 75 milliliters of the mixture was then transferred into the 4 mason jars. This produced my strongest samples in early June. From there, I experimented with waxing and ironing to refine the texture and durability. I also experimented with at-home cultures, growing mycelial bricks to see other applications of mycelium beyond just textiles. Bricks like the ones I grew are used in areas like construction. From my site visits, I learned that what matters most in this field is process control. Hilary Fox gave me a tour of Phillips Mushroom Farm in Kennett Square, the mushroom capital of the world, and I saw how large-scale production depends on precision. Temperature, humidity, CO2 levels, even light cycles are controlled to make growth repeatable and efficient. At a site visit to the University of Arizona in Tucson last month, I was given a tour of Dr. Betsy Arnold's mushroom laboratory that held 250,000 fungi specimens, showing me how species selection changes everything. Ganoderma lucidum is widely used in bioleather research due to its hydrophobic properties, which resemble tan leather. It grows strong mycelial mats within weeks, making it appealing for material innovation. However, lucidum is primarily used because it is the most well-studied species of the Ganoderma family, which revealed to me that there is so much more information that is yet to be discovered surrounding the biomaterial industry. When first starting my project, I thought design would lead the way, that I could dream up something amazing and I could just figure out how to grow it in the lab. What I found was the opposite. The tiniest details, like incubation time, make the biggest difference. And if you can't make the process the same way every single time, you can't scale it. And if you can't scale it, the economics will not work. At MycoWorks, a biotechnology company that turns mycelium into sustainable leather-like materials, I spoke with Xavier Gallego, Vice President of Brand and Marketing, who is based in Spain. He explained that bringing mycelium to market requires standardizing production so that every batch is consistent, using off-the-shelf equipment whenever possible, and creating detailed run cards for each step, automating where humans might make mistakes. Early products like handbags, accessories, and furniture are positioned transparently in the luxury market, where buyers value uniqueness and craftsmanship and are willing to pay a premium. As production methods improve and automation scales, costs will fall. Once the process proves reliable and supported by clear policies and certifications, the door will open to mass production and broader adoption. Javi stressed that biotech innovations require time, and with consumers often expecting instant results, educating the public about biomaterials is essential. Molly Ritter of Valdez Weavers echoed this point, noting that designers must demonstrate to clients how well natural fibers can perform in order to bridge the educational gap. For mycelium leather to expand, 3 conditions matter most: supportive policies that lower barriers to adoption, certifications that let companies validate their choices in ESG reporting, and performance and cost metrics that buyers can trust. As Emily George at EcoVadis reminded me, companies may value sustainability, but reliability and cost always come first. Business isn't altruism. No company makes a major shift just for goodwill. For mycelium to succeed, it has to be framed not only as good for the planet, but as good for resilience, reputation, and long-term cost. At Texworld, suppliers repeated the same refrain. If a material cannot meet price and lead time requirements, it won't matter how sustainable it is. We also need to broaden our imagination. On the chemistry side, Krueger at Eisenhower University of Technology in the Netherlands reassured me that even my mediocre discs weren't failures. Everyone in the field struggles with brittleness. At its core, the unsolved problem is plasticizers, the additives that make polymers flexible. She reminded me that my project doesn't need to end in a market-ready material. The process and documentation itself can be the project. She noted that glycerin is just a starting point. Different ratios, heat pressing, or natural additives may change outcomes. But even if the takeaway is simply that plasticizer chemistry is the main challenge, that's valid, since adding plastics undermine the entire purpose of biomaterials. Design-wise, she suggested a radical shift. Rather than limiting mycelium to flat sheets, slice or extrude it into strands that can be braided, knitted, or woven on existing machines, allowing real products to be tested without reinventing manufacturing. Looking ahead, I hope to be able to continue to educate others on the potentials of biomaterials by displaying my own mycelial samples alongside professional bioleather samples from MycoWorks. Alongside these, I'll display a clear visual of my process so visitors can understand both the simplicity and the complexity of this work. I'm extremely grateful to have been given the opportunity to conduct my own hands-on research and interviews, and I hope that this project not only sparks curiosity, but also nudges us to reconsider what fashion and waste might look like in a world where materials are grown rather than extracted or manufactured. In closing, I would like to give a huge thank you to Mrs. LeMay for encouraging me to pursue this project, Mr. Smith for his endless support and guidance, and the Lilley Faculty Committee and the Lilley family for giving me this amazing opportunity. In silence, let us reflect on what we have just heard.